Welcome to the Charleston Marketing Podcast, powered by the Charleston American Marketing Association, broadcasting from our home base at Charleston Radio Group. Thanks to CRG, we're able to talk to the movers and shakers of Charleston, from economy to art, from hospitality to tech, and everything in between. These leaders have made a home here in the Lowcountry. They live here, they work here, they make change here. Why? Let's talk about it.
Welcome to the Charleston Marketing Podcast, powered by the Charleston American Marketing Association. We're here recording at the Charleston Radio Group studios while Kaz Films is behind the camera, both supporters of CAMA. Let's not forget the talented Jerry Feels Good with the beats at the front and end of our show. Thanks to all of our supporters. Mike Compton here, president of Roombo Advertising, GoRoombo.com, and your director of membership experience. Thanks for joining us, listeners. Stephanie, tell them about yourself.
What's up, guys? I'm Stephanie Barrow, your CAMA Past president and founder of Stephanie Barrow Consulting, a digital strategy agency located here in Charleston. We are very excited to be joined by our guest, a dear friend of mine, Lacy Miller, the marketing communications manager of Charleston Jazz and one half of the dynamic duo, Gracie and Lacy.
Mm-hmm.
So,
welcome.
I'm so
Lacy.
glad to
Welcome to
be
the show,
here.
Lacy.
Thanks for having me.
I'm so excited
Heck
that
yeah.
you're here. Now, Lacy, I get to do the very awkward thing of talking about you. You're a very impressive singer-songwriter, marketer here in Charleston.
Hey.
And now I get to read your bio right in front of you.
And I had her shorten it, by
She
the way.
did.
It was just too much.
It was too
just
much
I'm like,
just the
impressive.
cliff notes. Just the
We need
cliff
to
notes.
Just the
shorten
cliff
this.
notes. So here we
ahead.
go. At 8 years old, Lacy Miller started her career in show business on her driveway. With a bedsheet strung on a garden hose for a curtain, she and her sister Gracie began staging elaborate musicals with neighborhood children in front of their St. Louis home, and Broadway on the driveway was born.
Oh, how cute is that?
I'm still going. Let's go. Not long after that, the homegrown theater company moved to various venues and grew to a team of over 150 volunteers and full orchestra, drawing audiences and thousands each summer. Lacy became the marketing arm of both the venture and put her design and sewing skills to work creating stunning costumes for her stage. I'm excited to dive in this in a second.
Mm-hmm.
Today, she works full-time in the music industry performing, songwriting, speaking, and making live performances. In addition to promoting Gracie and Lacy and the South of Broadband, Lacy handles the marketing for the nonprofit Charleston Jazz and consults emerging performing artists. In her spare time, she composes, records her original music, and in the process of completing a children's book, Broadway on the Driveway.
Come on, a children's book
Gosh,
too?
I'm exhausted listening to that bio.
You are a very
When do I
impressive
sleep?
person.
That's funny.
We're lucky here today, listeners. What, a children's book called Broadway in the Driveway? Oh my gosh. And then you guys just hung up sheets and
We did. That's all
talk
we had.
about it. Like, where was this?
This was in St. Louis. That's where I grew up.
Oh,
Right.
cool.
And we didn't have the money for theater classes, and we wanted so badly to be on Broadway when we were little. And so we just thought, we'll just get our bed sheets, we'll make some curtains, we'll invite the neighbors over, and all of a sudden we had this little theater troupe.
Thousands of people, not a little troupe.
What are you
Thousands
talking
of
about?
people
Well,
came in attendance.
Thousands came. We got kicked off the driveway by the police. The police showed up a couple years in, and they said, "You're causing traffic jams. We
No.
can't get anybody
Jeez,
down the street."
I'll be like, can I offer you some milk and cookies?
Yeah.
Please have a seat in our
we
performance.
did, actually. We
You did?
invited them. They
Oh, that's
stayed,
awesome.
and they didn't shut us down the first year, but they said, "Okay, Broadway has to move off the driveway."
I love this.
I'm trying to look back into the notes here. 8 years old. So
8
how
years
old
That's when
is
it started.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How old is your sister at this
She's
time?
2 years older, so we were 8 and 10 when we
8 and
started.
10.
Yeah.
Cutest thing I've ever heard of.
Oh, gosh.
Got to see some photos or some kind of
Oh, there's
documentation
some scary
on
photos
that.
back in the archives.
Oh, I
yeah.
bet. So you just came out the womb singing and dancing and marketing. I mean, you're pretty creative.
Marketing around
Yeah.
my home. No, I have loved music my whole life. I still remember we had just a few CDs growing up, and one
Okay.
of them was Whitney Houston.
Which CDs? Okay, Whitney Houston.
I would
Whitney
love to hear you
Houston.
cover Whitney Houston.
I
Yes.
love her.
She's
my
very
favorite
talented,
singer of all
listeners.
time.
Lacy's
Yes.
very talented.
And so I think it was her album, The Bodyguard. This little girl running
Oh my
around the house
gosh.
singing Bodyguard.
I'm
and-
thinking of that movie right now. Just imagining you doing this. That sounds so fun. Like when the white dress running. Oh yeah, I love it.
Yeah,
I love it.
So and then
I don't remember
we
that
lived
scene.
with my my grandma Kay when I was little, and she was blind. And so she was completely bedridden, and she would watch Lawrence Welk shows.
Oh, wow.
And she would say, can you describe the costumes? Can you describe what's happening, the singing, the dancing? So I really kind of think Grandma Kay's Lawrence Welk show watching inspired like the singing, the dancing, and the costumes all, from a really
So you're
young
like a
age.
one-stop shop performer-wise. So if someone hires you, now all the costumes that I see, because we'll jump into this a little bit later, but on social media, like you have very elaborate, beautiful jazz costumes.
Oh,
So
thank you.
I would love to see some throwback photos from your childhood. That would be so cute.
Were your parents performers?
Both of them played guitar, and they were both kind of just said, go ahead and run wild with your ideas. I don't think either one of them knew quite what was going to happen. It was very organic, really surprised us, but it was definitely a fun childhood for sure.
Your house just had
like
like all of the instruments in there, like you just picked an instrument and played type of thing?
Oh my gosh,
or-
our house was like stacked with scenery and props and costumes and sewing machines and instruments, and I mean,
that sounds so
we had a
fun.
whole level of our house that was a studio with like checkerboard floors and mirrors, and it was bright red. And
You need to come over to
So
our
much
house.
fun.
My kids are currently reenacting the opening scene of the Barbie movie. When they're like waking up and going, and we wake up, and they're like trying to reenact it. And Matthew are like, do y'all need privacy? Because you've got this whole thing down, and then they want to perform it. So
okay, I'm buying a ticket. I'm going to
Cute.
come see that.
I love
looks
that.
like fun.
Have it in your driveway stuff.
hey, I'm not stealing that idea. I
Why
think she's
not?
branded it. She needs to brand this. Hey, you could teach this as a thing for kids to do. I'm just keep thinking of party ideas. I'm gonna,
There we go.
Oh, that's a fun idea.
it is a
Battle
fun,
of the Driveway production.
There you go. I love it.
Yeah.
Now you've made yourself a name for yourself here in the Charleston area. So you're originally from St. Louis.
Yes.
And you moved here. What you said, like 10 years ago?
About 10 years ago.
Okay. So
Who
how
came
did you
first,
get
your sister
started?
or you? Sorry.
We
Steph.
came together, actually.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
They're besties.
We are. We're really close. It's kind of crazy how we picked Charleston.
Okay.
Yeah. Talk
We
about it.
knew we were ready to leave St. Louis. A lot of our older relatives had passed away, so there wasn't a lot holding us there.
Sure.
And we wanted to be able to be in a warmer climate because traveling in the winter, trying to do shows is crazy in the Midwest. So we literally got maps and we said, cross off anywhere you don't want to live. And
Detroit.
That's a way to
Cross.
do it.
yeah. And so
Poor Mike
Virginia was
Femtown.
an option, and Florida was an option, and South Carolina. And we knew we had some family history in Charleston,
Right.
like from 300 years ago. So we wanted to visit. We came on vacation, fell in love with Charleston. I actually met some of the musicians that I still work with today, like on vacation here, which was incredible. And then just packed up, moved, and prayed that
Something was
God
gonna
would
work
bring
out.
us clients. That's what
Absolutely.
we-
So I was going to ask. So you've made such a name for yourself here in Charleston. Do you feel like you got your start because of the community, because of your work, because of your marketing? Like, how did you get the ball rolling?
Honestly, I have to say it really feels like it was just the right place, the right time, and the community really welcomed us. They were the musicians. They were really helpful in helping us form our first band here. It was really easy to network in this town.
It is, yeah.
There's just you can know everybody in a short amount of time.
It
And
definitely feels that way.
I think the fact that we were branding ourselves Gracie and Lacy, Gracie is my sister's middle name, and that had a ring to it that people just didn't forget. And so
Right.
that became one of the things that people had noticed about us. And we always had kind of a vintage vibe. We love like that throwback era.
Yes.
And so people would start to recognize us. Oh, like there's Gracie and Lacy, those,
Cool.
jazz singers. And it just kind of caught on quickly. And I feel like we had just a lot of support from the community early on.
That's
What
amazing.
were you had to have been like? Were you serving tables? Were you bartending? Were you doing odd jobs to get there's a thing called struggling musicians,
Starving musicians. Yeah.
starving artists.
That's the best thing you can do for your business is to start starving.
Exactly.
Because you will put so much effort into it. You want to survive. So I think that really helped us. We came here. We were still commuting back to the Midwest. We did a lot of corporate event entertainment, a lot of theaters throughout the country. And so we just started kind of shifting. And so the first couple of years we were doing a lot of traveling back and forth. And then we were really going full-time in music. So rather than bartending, we would be teaching lessons. We would be
That's a
singing
smart way to do
jingles.
it.
We'd be
Yeah.
doing a lot of related things, maybe do a commercial here and there.
Mm-hmm.
Anything that came up that was arts or music related, we would jump in and do it.
Absolutely.
10 years ago, you were 28 when you moved here.
Oh, very good math skills.
Am
You're
I
pretty
good?
close. I'm 36, so very close.
You're never supposed to talk about age. What an
That was
idiot.
scary to
Yeah,
say
that wasn't in the notes.
That was
Dummy.
not in the notes. So I've heard you sing live, and your original music is fantastic. You know I'm a big fan. We left just singing your songs over and over and over again. So when you start to write, and Mike knows this, I love music marketing is like my passion. So I have endless questions, and I'll try not to do that to you. But when you're sitting down, you're writing like your original music, and when you're becoming the creator, when you through that thought process, like, are you writing it for yourself? Are you writing it for your listeners? Are you writing it to tell a story? Like, you're writing it for your family? Like, what's the beginning process to get it to going? Because I feel like writing an original song plus the music that goes along with it, it's a pretty big ordeal.
Yeah, I'm confused by the whole operation too. How do you what goes on?
For me, it's usually I'll get an idea or kind of the hook phrase.
Okay.
And it's usually inspired by life. So I know they joke about like Taylor Swift. You know, if you've ever dated Taylor Swift, watch out, you're going to end up in a song.
No joke.
Sorry,
that's real
guys,
life.
but that's really
That's how all songwriters
where
are,
content
right?
comes from.
For sure.
Yeah.
There's gonna be a song about a podcast
yeah.
coming out here soon.
So I feel like a lot of mine is inspired from life, not necessarily all heartbreak songs, but just life in general, things that I've lived through that inspire a particular area of growth usually.
Right.
And then I kind of get the music and the lyrics at the same time. I don't really have a specific formula other than I know how I want the lyrics to sound, and I feel like the lyrics go hand in hand with the melody, and they come at the same time for me. Sometimes if I have a really good inspiration, I will literally sit down and the whole song will come to me in less than an hour. And then other times I'll have like 50% of a song that sits for 5 years until I think of the perfect bridge or the perfect finish.
Sure.
And I've got several of those just sitting waiting to be finished.
Well, I love House on the Hill. You know that's my favorite.
Thank you.
My daughter Lainey was singing it over and over again for days. And they're like, go online and find out where she is so we can go hear it again. I'm like, calm down.
Stephanie, what's the hook?
House on the You sing it.
I still dream of a house on a hill where the grass grows greener and the time stands still. Clouds roll on by. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
All right.
that-
Yeah.
I am a
that's what
fan. Like, I'm a
talking about.
legitimate fan. She's so
Hold the
talented.
applause, everybody. Hold the applause.
I just recorded that at Coast Records yesterday. So
I love
it'll
Coast
be
Records.
released later this year. Super excited about
So
that.
where will it be
Amazing.
released? Like on Spotify?
Everywhere.
YouTube? Everything? Good.
Everywhere.
Perfect.
Perfect.
That's
So-
awesome.
What else you got there, Steph?
I want to talk a little bit about, obviously, Charleston Jazz.
Yes. Give us
So
some
you,
history.
so you have your original music
History.
and the Gracie and Lacy dynamic duo who does
Yeah.
like corporate events and that kind of thing. We talked in the green room about possibly doing like a residency somewhere,
Yes.
which would be wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
Love
So
that.
that might be upcoming. But let's talk a little bit about Charleston Jazz. So I met Lacy through actually a Charleston AMA event. It was all about personal branding and talking about Gracie and Lacy, and I was talking a little bit about Charleston Jazz. And you were kind enough to gift me and my husband tickets.
Yes.
And we went, and it was the first time I'd ever been to one of your events, and I loved it. Like, I loved it. I think I cried a lot.
Oh.
So we made a date night out of it. We went out to dinner. We went to see the show at Charleston Music Hall. And who was the performer again? I know you told me earlier.
It was Wycliffe Gordon.
Wycliffe Gordon. Oh, fantastic. Like, goosebumps. So for someone who's not familiar with jazz, can you tell them a little bit about Charleston Jazz and going to an event here in the Charleston area?
Absolutely. So what a lot of people don't know is that jazz, an entire subgenre of jazz, was born in Charleston.
That's amazing.
We always think New Orleans, the birthplace of jazz, but Charleston, if you go into some of the AME churches, if you listen to the Gullah Geechee traditional music and
Right.
their rhythms, that influenced an entire branch of jazz, and it was born right here. So Charleston Jazz's name is actually about that. That's where we get our name. We have a performance arm, we have an education arm, we have an outreach arm, and all of them come together to preserve the legacy of jazz. And it's birthplace of that subgenre here in Charleston. So what you saw was our Charleston Jazz Orchestra.
Oh, it's fantastic.
If you've not seen like a full 18-piece big band before, a lot of big bands were formed because back in the day they didn't have PA systems.
Right.
So you would have to scale up a jazz group so that people could hear, people could dance. So now that we have PA systems, we don't need a full big band, but that style is so incredible. It backed some of the greatest singers of the jazz era. They toured the country with these big bands, played out on Folly Beach for people to dance.
That's awesome.
That's what we're about with preserving the big band music, and that's what you came to see, which is a real treasure and very rare in our country today.
They were just riffing off each other. It was just so organic and cool and just like seamless. Like everyone were just people bringing it up to the stage. I just like loved it. It was like a full on. I don't know. I guess in my head, I've been to New Orleans and I've seen jazz there, but I also feel like jazz is kind of stuffy. And when I went to this, I was like, I was wrong. This is awesome. I feel inspired. I cried. It was fantastic. So I feel like it's like the perfect Charleston date night event.
Oh, I agree with you. I love that when people come to Charleston Jazz, it's a whole night out for them. And it's a really great way to experience the city and experience kind of the cultural vibe, historical vibe all in one.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you were just when you and Gracie, what's her first name?
Emily Grace.
Does she go by Emily Grace?
Yeah, in her civilian life, she's Emily.
Civilian life.
I think when I met her at your show at Folly, I was like, hey, hey Gracie, like super fan. I'm a super fan, but now I know that's not her first name. I feel silly. I apologize.
You're good. She responds to anything.
Sweet.
So when you and Emily Grace were looking for somewhere to go, you just happened to pick Charleston. You didn't know the history behind.
I had no idea about the jazz history. I actually did kind of pick Charleston from a marketing standpoint. I had been reading.
Do tell.
I've been reading about its rising as a world travel destination. I had been reading about just what the business landscape was like, what the artistic landscape was like. Charleston's a place of firsts. Back in the early days, it was the it place, kind of like a Broadway of its own type. We had like the first theater here. I believe we had the first opera. We had one of the earliest ballet companies. Charleston loved music. There were societies that would bring in the greatest stars of the day just for private concerts in their parlors.
Of course.
You know,
that sounds wonderful.
So there's been a great love of music here, and I felt like as I read more and more, I thought we at least have to check this place out.
Sure.
And then we literally on vacation looked for a house.
I did the same thing.
Happens all the time,
Came for
doesn't it?
vacation. A year later, I moved. I'm one of those people that everybody can't stand, and I'm not leaving. I'm here for life.
Yep.
So
We
now
can't help it.
It's a beautiful place to call home.
Yes.
Before Stephanie asks another question, what the Charleston Jazz? Can you explain that? Why that is different than jazz in New Orleans? And then you were giving us some kind of a beat.
Yeah. So what's interesting about Charleston Jazz as a subgenre and why it's unique to Charleston is on the Sea Islands and in the Gullah Geechee tradition, you will hear a clap, and it sounds like this.
Oh, yeah.
And if it makes you want to start doing the Charleston dance, that's because that's the same rhythm in the
All right, Mike,
Charleston
let's see you do the
song.
Charleston
Let's
dance.
see you do it.
No, I
Let's see
have no idea. I have to YouTube it real quick. I wouldn't. There's a lot of moving going on. You know, and bones are a little stiff right now. I have to stretch it out first.
The Charleston song that you're probably familiar with. There are actually several Charlestons in the music world. So
Okay.
you can actually Google and look for more Charlestons.
Look at us,
there's
groundbreaking Charleston. I'm proud of our city.
But we have one main Charleston song that became, really popular. But that rhythm is really, really unique to Charleston. And we also had the Jenkins Orphanage Band. And if you've not heard that story, Dr. Daniel Jenkins, he was a reverend, and he started an orphanage for homeless children in Charleston. And he thought, well, what can we do to raise money for the kids? He got some instruments donated. He used some old Citadel uniforms, and they formed a band.
This is cool.
They would play in the streets of Charleston. You would see Gullah footwork, Gullah Geechee footwork in they'd always have some kids out in the front dancing. And that, I believe, is where we see some of the Charleston style dance forming.
Originated.
And people would come out in the streets and dance so much that kids that were not in orphanages would tell their parents, I want to live at the Jenkins orphanage. I want to have fun with music like these kids.
Aw.
They got to play all over the world. They became their bands from the orphanage. They were trained classically. But when you take African culture and you fuse it with the European tradition, all of a sudden you get this improvisation and you get this rhythm, and you started to see this new music called jazz, and boom, soon
I
it's all
love
over the
that
country.
story. Did you hear that, New Orleans? We got our stamp on the, we made our mark as well.
We're making our mark.
We're
Yeah.
making our
Right.
mark. I
Yeah.
love
That's
that.
right. Speaking of making your mark, like I'm sorry, Steph.
You're fine.
I'm asking another question. I love how we're cultivating talent from within.
Me too.
You know, so you moved here 10 years ago. I moved here 4 years ago. Steph 5. If I'm seeing a lot of, and it's in the early stages, but I'm seeing a lot of workshops, a lot of schools, like coding school, even for example, like art schools and art music schools, and then there's like a rock and roll camp for kids, right?
Yes.
I can't remember the name of it. I think that might be it. What are you guys doing to cultivate in the Charleston Jazz? What are you guys doing to cultivate the future?
Yeah, that is probably the biggest part of what we do. It all happens in our Charleston Jazz Academy, which
Yes,
is
that's cool.
in North Charleston.
Mm-hmm.
And what we're trying to do is carry on that Jenkins orphanage tradition.
Mm-hmm.
And people support that academy like you wouldn't believe, with scholarships. And if they know of any child that wants to learn jazz that doesn't have an instrument or doesn't have access to the finances, we make it happen. And
That's amazing.
it's because we saw the transformation in the history of Charleston, the impact that jazz made on the Jenkins orphanage, on the whole community, on the world, all here in Charleston. And Charleston had historically been known as the place to get good musicians. If you were a Broadway producer, you wanted pit musicians from Charleston. They were so well trained in music. So we're trying to carry on that legacy.
Right.
And it's really been incredible. We get, people scouting from Berkeley, looking at our students and saying, wow, there's really excellent training going on here. These kids love jazz. They love what they're doing. And it's been coming full circle, seeing what these kids are going on to become. It's amazing.
I bet it's very, very rewarding for you to, someone. I think I've seen you do some stuff at schools yourself, haven't you?
I have.
Yeah, I thought so.
That is the most rewarding part. Going into a school, some kids have never heard jazz before.
Right.
Some kids have never heard of Broadway, or they've never been exposed to arts and culture. And so to come in and bring a show to them, I have loved doing that with my sister. And then Charleston Jazz, they have an incredibly robust in-school outreach program that reaches so many students. We've put Grammy Award winners in schools. We've had kids come up and learn all of it, what each instrument does. It's really inspiring and special.
No, so. Do you do city things all over the city, or do you do strictly at? Where do you typically do that?
Yeah, all over the city.
Okay. Because I've been to Charleston Music Hall. Do you do things at the Gilliard and?
Yes, so we have a big Jazz Day for Kids concert every year. It brings in school-age children from all over.
Okay.
It's about 1,200 kids that experience
Oh,
jazz
wow.
for the first time, some of them. It's amazing. So we have lots of different events. We host a huge Charleston Jazz Festival every
Yes.
April. That's multiple venues throughout the city. We have some indoors, some outdoor. It's
Do you do
so
anything
fun.
with Spoleto?
We do. We have our students actually were part of the opening of Spoleto. They got to play the Charleston with the mayor, and they were
course, of
overjoyed.
course.
Y'all, what is Spoleto, real quick, for the listeners?
Yeah. Do you want to tell them?
What is Spoleto?
Sure. It's an annual, I guess, arts and drama, and it basically brings talent from all over the world, not even the United States, all over the world, to downtown Charleston for, I guess, 10 days? I might be speaking out of
Wow,
turn,
that's
but
a
I
long
think 10
time.
days. So you'll go outside and you can go in the market and you can see fine art artists, and then at night you can go to the ballet or you can go to musical, different types of performances. It's a full thing of events. I go every year. I have some fine art artist clients that participate, and so I go, and it's fantastic. If you've never heard of Spoleto, you definitely need to check it out.
Yeah, no kidding.
It's
awesome.
basically all types of arts. So
Lacy, did you go to school for marketing?
I did not.
Nice.
I think if I had gone to school for marketing,
Mm-hmm.
everything I would have learned would have been obsolete. By now, we were
Yep.
talking about this. We were
Really?
talking about reels before the podcast,
yeah.
and Reels? What were Reels? I mean, I was
They
one of
weren't
the last
5
people,
years ago.
I was one of the last people to get on Facebook. You know, by the time
Right.
I was on Facebook, it wasn't even cool anymore.
Yeah.
You spent a lot of time on MySpace, didn't you?
MySpace days.
I spent a lot of time just doing what I loved. I
Isn't that
have to
amazing?
say, I didn't spend a lot of time on social media or watching television. I was
You hear that, kids?
sewing, singing, dancing.
Yeah. And now
traveling.
you're in a world where you have to market people for a living.
Yeah.
How ironic.
Yeah.
I know.
So you sounds like you're living the dream a little bit.
I love what I do.
Mhm.
I really do.
Mhm. So on a day to day, you could be, sitting at the in your office doing some marketing, whatever that is, connecting some dots, and then you could go be singing in front of school. Or are you still doing the corporate work too?
Yeah,
And
it's wonderful because I work remotely for Charleston Jazz,
Perfect.
and so if I have to hop on a TV show or if I have to do a podcast like
Yes.
this one,
Hey.
or run into a recording studio and lay down a new song, I love that I have the flexibility to do that because then I can be out in the community and not just sitting in front of a laptop 24/7.
and then how do you feel about marketing music, and especially jazz, your favorite part? Like
I
your
think
favorite
because
genre?
jazz, I cannot market something that I'm not passionate about.
Right.
And because jazz, if you rewind history in Charleston, jazz was desegregating Charleston before Charleston was officially desegregated. The musicians wanted so badly to play with anyone who was good, to swap techniques. What are you learning? What are you learning? And I was told by a gentleman, he's in his 90s. His name is Lonnie Hamilton. He was back here in Charleston in that early day of jazz. And he said, we would wait for restaurants to close, and then the owners would let us come in and play. And it was musicians from every background
What a cool
coming together.
time to be alive, to experience just
Isn't
the
that amazing?
community of it all.
They were co-writing, they were jamming, they were sharing techniques, and it was bringing Charleston together. It was a very unifying art form.
Sure.
And I don't know where Charleston would be today actually without jazz. I don't know.
And there's certain places in the city that you can hear jazz, not just through Charleston Jazz. Like Forte is very popular now, right?
Yes, I love that when people ask about the different jazz bands in Charleston,
Sure.
the different jazz venues. What's hilarious about Charleston, we're big enough to provide world-class entertainment.
Right.
We're small enough that basically there's one giant jazz band in Charleston, and we all just use different names, but it's the same musicians. You're going to see some of the same faces of Forte or Barca or Indigo. You're going to see these people mixing around all over town because we all know each other. We all love working with each other. So it's a cool community if you're a musician.
I feel like Charleston is really putting themselves on the map with, like you said, your friends of the Rinky Tanky Band.
Yes.
They've won 2 Grammys. They're they're fantastic.
I'm new fans of them right now, by the way. You introduced me to a new. I've heard of them, but I never listened to them. So
Yeah,
thank
look
you for
up
that.
Rinky Tanky. They Charlton Singleton, one of the members, used to be the director of the Charleston Jazz Orchestra.
So the gentleman's name is
Charlton Singleton.
Charlton. The guy's name's Charlton.
Yes.
Nice. I love that.
Yeah, and then one of our recent guest artists was Kiana Parler. She's a member of Ranky Tanky.
Yes,
So
yes.
it's a very tight-knit community, and when they won those, they've now won 2 Grammys.
They won one this past year.
They sure
No
I
kidding.
was cheering from home. It
We
was
are
awesome.
so proud of them, and it has really helped put Charleston on the map, not only for music, but jazz.
That's amazing. So this episode is dropping in February. So tell us a little bit about upcoming events coming up in the, I think for Valentine's Day.
Stephanie already has it planned out. so
She's already
I'm
playing.
there.
she's
There's
good.
always jazz going on at Valentine's Day. We are actually launching our 16th Charleston Jazz Orchestra season.
Nice.
So if you want to beat the crowds on Valentine's Day and wait for your date until a little later in February.
Yes, you said the
I
24th, correct?
I believe it's 23rd or 24th. We have our opening show with Manny Houston and the Charleston Jazz Orchestra.
Nice.
We're going to have some like Sammy Davis Jr. and Sinatra
Ooh,
vibes.
I like that.
And Manny's incredible. He's toured all over the world. He's worked with Disney. He's been up off Broadway. He's done all sorts of television appearances. He is a quadruple threat as a performer. He's returning because he was such a popular guest performer for us in the past. And he's going to
exciting.
kick off our whole season. We have a 6-show season. It's kind of like a symphony season.
Okay.
Only it's got this cool jazz vibe to it. So
I love it. But your
yeah.
season is April.
Our season for Charleston Jazz actually goes February through December, but April, drum roll,
Yay.
Charleston Jazz Festival.
Yes, which tickets do sell out, P.S., because I didn't buy them early enough last year.
Yes. The tickets tend to sell out very fast for the festival. What's cool about that is that April is Jazz Month. It's Jazz Month nationwide, worldwide, I believe. And we also have a special day of Charleston Jazz that's in April every year. That's the city proclaimed it. So we have a special Jazz Artists of Charleston Day. So it was the perfect month to do our festival, which is April 18th through the 21st.
Love it.
Multiple venues. We're bringing in huge headliners. I wish I could tell you who they are.
Oh,
but
no.
You have to follow charlestonjazz.com to hear the official announcement.
Nice.
Okay. Awesome. I'm super excited.
So I'm going to go off script real quick. Stephanie loves it when I do this. There's got to be somebody out there listening to this podcast. Hundreds of somebody's listening to this podcast.
Hundreds.
That are a musician that don't know what to do, where to go, that even like marketing like yourself. I mean, there's got to be other Lacys out there, right? Mm-hmm. Even a team like Lacy and Gracie. What would you tell them? Like, what kind of takeaway that, like, I love taking notes from a podcast, right? Mm-hmm. So I want to I want to give as much information to the listeners as possible. Like, what kind of inspiration, like what kind of things did you do when you were coming into Charleston and wanting to get into music, and like, what did you do?
Yeah. So
other than hustle,
you gotta hustle. I think one of the biggest things is quality over quantity. We hear that over and over, but this example, for years I had been telling my sister, we've got to invest in high-res photography. But we'd have, people would take some photos and send them our way. And I will tell you, as soon as we hired a professional photographer, we got 2 magazine inquiries the second day after we published them.
That's great.
And so that was a
That's
proof.
awesome.
So don't skimp on your marketing materials. And honestly, we did not have a lot of money. We were taking a huge risk coming here. So we've done a lot of trade. If you have a skill set like marketing, you can sometimes barter with people. I've helped photographers with their websites and with their social media to help, do some trade. And that works both ways really well. So I would say do not skimp on the image, because it's hilarious. There's no such thing as fame. There's so many talented singers like Whitney Houston sitting in church choirs right now that if you put the right dress on them and put them on a stage with the lights and all of the bells and whistles and marketing, they are Whitney Houston. And that's hard for me to say because I love Whitney Houston, and there is only one Whitney Houston.
There's only one Whitney.
But there are incredible musicians that if they were wrapped in that pretty package of marketing, then people would actually take them more seriously. You want to create the image that the audience can brag about. And I know that that's not what we want as musicians. I actually hate promoting myself. It's really hard. Like. I love promoting other people, but you have to be able to step outside yourself and allow your client, allow your audience to brag about you. Mm-hmm. What are the things that they're going to tell their girlfriend when they're saying, I bought you tickets to this show, or I want to Instagram this and show the people the really cool concert I just went to. If you don't give them incredible marketing copy with bragging rights, if you do not give them beautiful photography or high quality audio video,
right?
A lot of times we'll have cell phone videos representing an incredible band. You would never know how good they are because they haven't invested in high quality audio. Right. So those, I would say, if you're a musician, audio, video, high quality photography. Start there. Get a simple website put together. It doesn't have to have 1 million pages. Get your SEO, working for you the best that you can, and then just get out in the community and build an image for yourself, and people will start taking you seriously.
Right. So there is no money, right? I don't have any money. I'm a musician. I don't have any money. I don't know how to market myself. I think you said barter. That's one way of doing it, right? The other way is just building that team. Yeah. We had our guest Jerry Feelsgood on.
I was thinking about him through this podcast.
Weren't you just now too?
Yeah.
And he's built this team. Oh, I just bumped the mic.
So he's
built this great team.
He is a DJ and does beats and that kind of thing. So he lives on the street in downtown Charleston.
Called Strawberry Lane.
Yes, where it's a community of people in that same genre of music. And they help each other out and they do gigs together. He's constantly tagging me in cool stuff. And when you were speaking about the community, like the jazz community, and how you all help each other out and you help each other and your different sets and that kind of thing, it reminded me of him because I love that because that's kind of like insider information that I had never heard about Strawberry. I mean, obviously I think about Strawberry Fields Forever, like the Beatles, but they're actually physically living on Strawberry Lane downtown and like on all these different apartments together.
It reminds me of...
I learned something new. I have never heard of that.
I think it's such a budding music scene because when I first moved here, I was a little discouraged by the Charleston music scene. And over the last couple of years, I was like, nah, I just wasn't hip to it. And now that I am, there's so many things you can do to hear people and support people and that kind of thing. I love it.
That is so neat.
It is cool.
So you were lucky, though, to have a teammate on your side already.
Yeah.
Right?
I was so fortunate. My sister she's solid. I'm a dreamer. I'm a visionary. I like to package things and design things. She is like, we got to get this contract, tight. We've got to get these details in order. She hires the musicians. She makes sure that they get paid, all of those things. So we're a really good team. I tend to go out and make a big scene, and then she comes and organizes it, makes it happen. So it works well.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So I think I'm going to see you. Well, this is dropping in February, but I'm going to see you in December. So I'm excited because you're doing a big Christmas show.
We are.
And this is an annual event, correct?
This is so we do a couple of Christmas things annual. The first Christmas thing, literally right after Thanksgiving, is the Kiowa Island tree lighting.
Love it.
We've been doing that for several years now. They have hot cocoa and cookies and families come and
sunset, surround views,
beautiful,
gorgeous.
Big countdown to light the tree, and we sing holiday music with everybody. It's gonna be a fantastic night. So that's a great community event, and then we're coming back with the Charleston Symphony.
Oh wow!
And we love our Charleston Symphony. They have a Holiday Pops concert at the Gilliard Center. So Gracie and I will be jumping in for some songs with them, and they're incredible.
Bedazzled outfits.
Oh yes. I've already been ordering my sequin.
I cannot wait to see this. I'm so excited.
I did a little research, just a little bit of research on your LinkedIn, and you write something here that says marketing makes music possible.
Yeah.
As a singer and marketer, I help fill the seats and reach the fans.
Yes.
Poetic.
Very poetic.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We'll
Thomas
talk about
Heath
it.
would be very proud.
Okay. You want to know something
every
about
time you
that?
bring LinkedIn, Thomas Heath. She says Thomas Heath.
I wrote that after attending Thomas Heath's
Stop it.
last class.
Jeez Louise.
So,
Love
hey,
you, Thomas.
Thomas, we love you.
Good work.
Thomas Heath makes a big impact on Charleston marketing community.
100%.
He loves LinkedIn. I kind of had a feeling because he's very good about personalizing.
So you wrote that
based
after
After
oh,
Thomas.
my goodness.
You got to thank Thomas.
Got to thank Thomas.
There you
Good
go,
work.
Thomas.
Good work.
Shout out to
We'll
him.
have you on the show one of these days, I promise.
we will.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just like that. I just thought I had to write that down. I thought that was pretty cool.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like so many musicians are incredible and no one knows about them. And that's one of the reasons I learned marketing. I am a self-taught marketer. I have taken so many courses online and classes.
It's all about professional development.
Yeah. And, it changes so much. Now we're learning about AI and all these new things. So, marketing makes music possible. If no one hears about it, if no one's in the seats,
Right.
then why are we making music? Just for ourselves, I guess.
I want to help market the musicians. Like, we've got to figure something out. Like, what else can we do? We can have musicians on this podcast.
Absolutely.
I would love that. We've had a couple.
We've already had a few. We have
you.
two now, you and Jerry.
We will take all, you know how I feel. Bring all the musicians on. Let's do
Right?
this.
Because music and marketing, right? They kind of go hand in hand, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely.
Stingers.
M&Ms. I'll bring them in for the music and marketing podcast.
Love it.
M&Ms. What now?
Music and marketing.
I love it.
M&M.
I love the sponsor idea there too.
You're
Maybe
welcome.
M&Ms can sponsor us.
Full of ideas.
Full of
That's why we love you, Stephanie.
Oh, I love you guys.
Yeah, that's why.
Mike and I are going to double date to the Charleston Jazz.
Ooh.
We'll see.
go.
We'll
Put it out in the
see.
universe
I
for
do
me.
want to
It's
go.
gonna happen.
I do want to go,
It's
but I don't
gonna
know if it's Stephanie though. But we'll definitely. I'm just kidding.
It's her
Steph, I'm just
birthday. You
kidding.
cannot
Oh, it's your birthday?
turn her down on this.
All right, fine.
Jake will go with me. Jake will go.
Once he finds a date, yes, he will go.
He has a date. We'll go together. Wonderful.
I love it.
Everyone should go to the Charleston Jazz and at least experience it one time, because I'm telling you right now, if you experience one time, you will do it again.
Yeah.
I like that.
I
Can
gotta
you
do
write
it.
that down? That's good.
I
Well,
mean it with authority.
It's going to be it's recorded, so
I really felt that way. I left going, this was so much more special than I imagined it was going to be.
Oh.
I felt more connected to my husband. I was snuggling up. It was great. The whole thing was magical.
You guys do not need to be more connected. You guys are like two peas in a pod.
Don't be
like,
hating on my love.
Aw.
No, it was really awesome.
That's wonderful. That's what we like to hear.
yeah. So that she shared it, right? She did what you wanted her to do. She bragged and shared her experience with.
Now, you don't have
You
to
know?
be in a relationship to go, and you can go with some girlfriends and get dressed up and have a blast hearing some jazz too. But you will leave feeling goo-goo, and it is wonderful.
You can go as a single person.
Amen.
We have several people that come solo because they just love the music so much, and there's a great opportunity to mingle with people and meet other people that love music too.
Yeah.
So it's funny. I always think of it as the perfect date night because it really is.
Sure.
When I'm not working for Charleston Jazz, that is what my boyfriend and I are doing. We're going to go and have a date night at Jazz.
Yes.
In Charleston or New York or somewhere. And so it's funny, though, because I would do that as a single person. I would just go and see it by myself because it's so fun.
It is
so
fun.
relaxing.
Whenever I hear live music, I just feel so alive.
Yeah.
I just come out like, I'm going to leave this podcast today feeling more alive. I'm going to go home and copyright and be like, my daughter's going to be like, calm down, Mom. It's all good.
I love working with jazz in the background.
Me too.
Yeah. Jazz fruits, like I was telling you.
Jazz fruits, apparently.
and it's great. It's like a playlist, if you will,
Okay.
of
Is it
jazz
on
music.
Spotify?
It's got me hooked. Sorry,
Is the playlist on Spotify?
correct, and Pandora.
Okay, great.
Awesome.
I'll have to check it out.
Check that out.
Yep.
Yeah, we play the Charleston Jazz YouTube channel, my boss and I, when we're working, just to kind of remind us, like, this is why we do what we do, and it's so incredible. I just listen to that music, and it helps you really get into the groove of your work.
No kidding.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah,
So you just wake up every day like puppies and sunshine and smiling and
Oh,
rainbows
of course.
and just
Yeah.
like,
Oh,
I
yeah,
get
of
to
course. Yeah.
sing
She
and
really
market.
is like a
and-
light when you're around her. It's so wonderful.
Yeah.
Speaking of things that inspire me, other than you, you introduced me to something that I absolutely am like a huge fan of now, which is the Sisters of Song.
What's this now?
I was a Sisters in Song. It's
Say it again.
like it's
Sisters
in song.
and song.
In.
In? Mm-hmm. Talk about it.
It's a little tongue twister. Sisters
It is.
in Song. We could make
Tell me
a
more.
vocal warm up out of
Say
that.
more about it.
Yeah.
I think I was just excited, so I just messed up the name because I like them that much.
It's
But-
okay. We got it. We got it. Sister in song.
So it's like a local community group of
Yeah.
women who work in the music industry.
Oh.
So either singer-songwriters, marketers, anyone who has some affiliation with the music industry here in the Charleston area.
Yeah.
They could just like reach out to Sisters in Song and
It's like it's a month, kind of like we have the Charleston AM chapter.
Oh,
This is
okay.
The chapter they started it. How many
Very
years ago
cool.
was it?
It's been going a couple years. One of the people that I knew that first invited me was Emily Curtis.
Yes.
Who, if you haven't heard
She's
Emily
one of the
Curtis's
founders.
music,
Oh,
you've
she's
got to
great.
get on Spotify and listen to Emily Curtis.
Emily Curtis? Okay.
She wrote a great song called Sandcastles. Beautiful song. But anyway, yeah, it's a group of women that write music, perform music, record music, and really just encourage each other. Sometimes, as you know, Stephanie, from your work in music,
Right.
there's so much to navigate. And
Absolutely.
It's so easy to get taken advantage of or
Oh,
not
for sure.
have your licensing, ducks in a row as a
right.
musician. And so it's been a great group. I love bouncing ideas off of people. Bless you.
Couldn't help it.
it's okay. Do you
Sorry.
people cough? It's okay. Do you want some water?
I have something.
Choking on some water?
I got too excited about Sisters in
She's
Song.
so
I
excited.
know, right?
I
Hey,
know,
Lacey,
now
do
I'm
you
crying.
do you have any recommendations of resources for people to learn more about how to license and how to make these contracts for our listener musicians out there?
Honestly, I have gotten so much information from a podcaster and
it.
blogger. It's called Ari's Take, A-R-I, Ari's Take, and I think he's based out in California.
Okay.
But he writes some incredible information specifically for independent artists because the industry's changing. What you needed a label for back in the day, you
Sure.
maybe could do yourself. Some people choose to go that independent route, and it works out great for them.
Good for that. That's awesome.
So he kind of helps navigate that, getting your performing rights organization set up and copywriting your music and how to release in a proper fashion.
Right.
So I would definitely check out his work. My boyfriend was so sweet. He gave me Songwriters for Dummies. And he
That's
was like,
sweet.
I'm
That's
sorry
nice.
about the title, but I thought you could use this.
Aw.
It's great. There's some great stuff in there. It really is. But yeah, There's a lot of, I learned a lot from it. So
Yeah,
great
you are a very
resources.
talented songwriter, so I'm excited
Thank you.
for what's upcoming for you.
Thank you.
It's gonna be fantastic.
What are you doing, Stephanie? You wrapping this up? Is that what's going on? We got
I was
like another
just
15
thinking
minutes
that-
to go here.
I was just
hang out with
thinking
Lacy a
that
little
I
longer.
haven't heard her sing since Folly.
Oh, are you trying to put her on a spot right now?
I want her to have a
Oh.
residency somewhere.
I do.
Charleston Radio
I would
Group.
love a residency.
I feel. Have you been to LA a lot?
I've never been to LA.
Okay, there's a place in LA that I love called Hotel Cafe, which is a hole-in-the-wall venue. It's got a stool. You sing there. I'm not going to name drop, but one of my good friends, who's now a really famous singer, would sit on this stool and just sing her heart out. Wow. And you would go and you would buy tickets. And like one night I saw John Mayer there. You just like lots of cool people. And I love that about the Nashville music scene too, because you could go on any given night and go just sit there, not even like somewhere famous like the Bluebird Cafe. You could go almost anywhere and hear someone singing like just their own original music. And I feel like that's lacking here in Charleston. Now, if I win the lottery, friends, number one, I'm going to do that. We've talked about this earlier. Like I'm going to set that up. That's going to happen. But I had such a good time at the Sisters in Song night. It was women singing over and over and over again on this tiny stage at Folly Beach at Chico Farra, right? Mm-hmm. And it was, 10 performances in a row?
Yeah.
And I was getting eaten alive by mosquitoes. And I was not leaving. I was not leaving because I enjoyed it that much.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like we're missing that place to go. It's often where I'm like, state night, I'm like, where can we go hear live music, Matthew? And he's like, every place is sold out if there's anything. And I feel like I'm just really excited to hear you sing again. I was that entranced with your words. It was you're so talented.
Well, when will we be able to hear you sing again?
Yeah, so a lot of our events are corporate events, so they're
Yes.
private, but the Kiowa Island Tree Lighting, the Charleston Symphony, my original music, I'll be putting an announcement on Lacy Miller Official. So if you follow Lacy Miller Official on Instagram or Facebook,
I do. I follow her.
you can. It'll also it'll go to the Gracie and Lacy account too. So if you're following Gracie and Lacy, so I am going to drop House on a Hill
Yay.
very soon.
That's my song.
And I have several other songs that are in the works and just carving out the time to chip away at releasing them. So that's where you can follow original.
You know where I've been finding a lot of original music?
Where's that?
TikTok.
Oh
yeah.
TikTok is the place. Yeah.
Are you on?
You know, I am just not one of the cool kids yet. I haven't gotten into the TikTok thing.
It's hard. I work with a band from the DC area, and they're on TikTok. And it's hard because I love TikTok for what it is, but most of it's like trending songs that are already popular. Mm-hmm. So to put your original music out there, it's they get more likes and more hits or more followers from singing like covers.
Yeah.
Well, or dancing to like popular songs or doing whatever cheesy trend is. And so there's got to be like a happy medium. I always think about digital marketing, and I feel like Instagram is probably a little bit more. Remember SoundCloud when that was a thing? I loved all those platforms that really streamed and pushed, new arising artists and that kind of thing.
There was one TikTok that I follow now because he did such a good job in pre-marketing the drop. You said drop, so it made me think of this guy. Man, what's the name of his song? Was Champagne and Red Lipstick or something like that?
That's catchy.
Oh, yeah, it was really, really catchy. And he would just sing a little bit of it, like the hook, and then that would be it. And then he did a couple things like, oh, let's hear your version. What do you think it's going to sound like? Or different dances and stuff like that.
Yeah,
so
they do this thing on TikTok where an artist will sing a little bit of a song. It's called a duet, right?
It was cigarettes and lipsticks.
Yeah, and then someone else will sing a little bit and they piece it all together. It is cool. It's cool to see the community of it. I think TikTok became so big during COVID. We were all sitting at home. And I do love it for what it is. But I do think it's hard as an original artist to really be seen in that kind of space.
You really do. One of the people from a marketing standpoint that's done a really good job getting their genre that's less popular heard is postmodern jukebox.
Oh, yeah.
They
What
are
is this?
throwback, like roaring 20s, 30s, 40s.
Okay.
They have the whole vintage vibe, and they have brought such a new audience to that style because they sing whatever's trending, whatever's popular, but they throw it back to the old style of playing.
Ooh.
They might throw a tap dance on
That's
stage.
cool.
They put all sorts of guest vocalists on there, which cross-pollination of your
Yeah,
audience
yeah.
is a big deal.
100%.
Guest
yeah.
performers.
Everyone's tagged in it. Oh, I love it.
Yeah. So I find Scott Bradley has a postmodern jukebox, and I really think he's got a good strategy going for introducing that old school genre to a new audience.
Right.
It was brilliant. You can hear, Beyonce or something trending in that style. I'm sure they're doing Taylor Swift right now. They would definitely garner a big audience doing that.
It's escaping my mind right now, so excuse me, listeners. But what is that showcase every single year where someone like does a song and they send it out to the masses and they pick one? It's
A single?
no. It's anybody else know? Nobody. What'd you say?
They drop
No.
in-
It's I want to say like Tiny Footprints. It's
Oh, Tiny Desk.
Tiny Desk.
Yeah,
there we go,
NPR.
friends. Woo,
Yeah.
Tiny Desk through NPR. I should know that. Goodness gracious. If
This
y'all
is a
don't.
Tiny Desk.
It is.
We could tiny podcast.
What's the Tiny Desk? Will you talk about it? What?
Yeah,
you figured
so
it out
it's
now. What
it's
is
through
it?
NPR. Any artist can write a song and submit it to be Tiny Desk, and it's like a very famous platform. They pick one that does really well every year.
Okay.
But it's a huge network because it's through NPR, and they're really pushing it out there. And, you and I could sing a song in our shower and submit it, and it could win. And they win, I think, a recording contract. They win all these things. But it's not like American Idol or anything like that online because there's a lot of legitimacy behind NPR.
Yeah.
Like, even some famous artists have put their stuff out there just to be heard. And
Interesting.
partnered with
Tiny Desk.
Oh, it's cool. Yeah.
We should take that
Really,
to the
it's
Charleston
a
Radio
unique
Group.
thing, and it really is. It's
steal it.
literally a very tiny little office desk.
Yep.
And they cram bands in there. They've piled up on top of each other practically
Fun.
with their amps and everything, and it's become this like viral sensation. Everyone
is
wants
very-
to play Tiny Desk.
Yeah.
I've
Very cool.
submitted to them before.
Oh.
Oh, good.
NPR. Look
Where
at my
else- where's she
submissions.
at? No, it's you need to check it out. It's really cool. I work with the band Aaron and the Wildfire, and they submit every year, and their stuff is so good. And the band that beat them out last year was called, I think they were called Oh He Dead.
Oh,
Do you know her? No.
it's a
She's
great
this.
name though.
Oh,
Yeah.
I know. They're based out of DC, and she's got this soulful, cool voice. And it just what made me think of that is because it helped me introduce me to a lot of musicians I'd never heard before. So then all of a sudden I have like curated the Spotify list for people I'd never heard that I heard through that.
Can I have your Spotify list?
Yeah, sure.
I
I'll
want your
send it to
Spotify.
you. Oh yeah, but it's I don't know. I like voices, so
Yeah.
I like the music. I like to dance and stuff for fun. But when I'm sitting there working, it's all about the song and the lyric.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just hear voices in my head. So.
Your voices.
Oh,
That
shit.
doesn't surprise me.
Can I talk about that? Talk about the Daughters of the American Revolution.
Oh.
What is going on there? I like that.
Wow. Well, I moved to Charleston, didn't know anybody, and was digging into my family history here, which
Okay.
is what sparked my interest in coming to Charleston. So if you've ever seen the street called Legree Street, it's spelled Laguerre, but I'm told that to pronounce it Legree.
Okay.
I remember my great aunt Louise Lacy. I'm Lacy Louise. She was Louise Lacy.
Oh.
I remember her telling us about the Legree family and how that's the way you talk about them. They were from Charleston, and they were French, and they were Huguenots, and they ended up in Charleston.
Sure.
And that's kind of where our family line landed here. So I wanted to know all about that, and the place to ask these old history questions is the Daughters of the American Revolution. So went knocking on their door, and they were like, well, we need some young members. And
I can only imagine.
so, yeah, I wish I could say I was, more involved, but it definitely in my early seasons here, they were really, really sweet and helping me figure out who am I? Where did my people come from? What
That's
were their
very cool.
names? And
That's really neat.
I found out that in White Point Garden, my Revolutionary era grandparents fell in love, and I wrote a song about it.
No,
of
you did
course.
not.
I did.
I
did.
That's great.
That one is called. Oh gosh, it's got to have a working title, but it's all about how my my grandfather was a very, very devout Huguenot, and my great-great-grandmother loved to dance and go to parties and kind of live this like not devout life.
Oh, I love
so
it.
he would marry her, and that went on for years and years, and they were
Mike's
so in love.
currently
that he would
Googling
not.
Huguenot.
I'm 100% Googling Huguenot.
Yeah.
I've never heard this
Google
before.
Huguenot. At first
It's
I
for the
heard it.
listeners.
I was like, "Is this a cult? What is this?"
Sounds very cultish. What are we
Yeah,
doing here?
so from France.
Okay.
French Protestants from France. And he was so devout that he would not marry her. And she finally agreed to raise the children in a devout lifestyle, and they got married, and it was just like a beautiful love story. It turned out to be so like precious and sweet, and was able to track down some writings that she wrote, and it just made me want to write a song. So I did. And so it's just all about how, you know, they make each other laugh and how they fell in love. And
That's so sweet.
yeah.
Well, I'm excited for you, and you do have a love story blossoming, but we won't talk about that today. But if he's listening, I can't wait to meet you.
Yeah,
I'm excited.
He'll be listening.
That's awesome.
Super. Thank you for the Huguenots drop. Now I know
Yeah,
something
history
new
lesson.
there. Yeah. Is that funny to you, Ellison? Ellison's our engineer. I asked the dumb questions, okay?
It's not. There are no dumb questions.
Thanks, Lacy.
No dumb questions.
You can come back.
No, this has been awesome.
You're welcome back,
You're
Lacy.
welcome back anytime. And she was fantastic doing a coffee talk, so maybe we'll do something like that again, too.
So
I would
fun.
love to have your sister in.
Oh my gosh! Yes.
Think she would like to do it?
I'm a huge fan of my sister.
Oh,
Absolutely. Yeah, she's.
That's so nice of
she's
you,
Super
Lacy, to
talented.
be a fan.
She is all of the things that I'm not. So we make a really good team.
good team.
Yeah,
Awesome.
Excellent tap dancer.
she is.
Yes.
She tapped in. We had a hard time finding. We live in a townhouse with like a shared wall.
Okay.
And I check in with the neighbor all the time. Like, do you hear the tap dancing? Are we driving you crazy?
They're a worse
Please.
thing that neighbors
100% they
can
hear
hear.
it. I'm sure
Come
they
over
hear
for a
it.
free
so
show.
so far, it's been a great neighbor. He has not had us evicted, so that's good.
That's
Wow.
awesome. All right. Well, I know you have a lot of fun, exciting things coming up. So how can people stay in track with you?
Absolutely. If you want to follow Charleston Jazz, super simple, charlestonjazz.com, all the social media platforms, follow Charleston Jazz. We've got a great concert coming up at Christmas that you're coming to December 2nd at Charleston Music Hall. 5 o'clock for the early people, 8 o'clock for the late night owls. Super excited about that. We've got Gracie and Lacy shows coming up. You can follow that at gracieandlacy.com on all the social channels. And then if you
Consistent.
want to follow that original music, that's Lacy Miller Official on Instagram and Facebook.
That's right.
You know that Lacy Miller official.
Official. Let there be no other Lacy
She is
Miller.
a songbird.
Lacy Miller fake. I'm
friends.
gonna make it right
Songbird. Literally goosebumps every time I hear you say it.
Oh, thank you.
Well, this was fun. I'm excited to see you.
You guys
Yeah.
are fun. I
Oh,
want to hang out with you
nice.
more.
I know.
Yeah.
We'll do lunch
So
soon.
fun. Thanks
Fun.
for
You can
having
come,
me.
Of
Mike.
course.
You can come to lunch.
Yeah. Well, thanks.
You're
I like to
welcome.
eat.
Girls'
Good.
lunch, but you can come.
Oh
can
my
come.
gosh.
So fun.
Felt so out of place in this interview here. It's all about the ladies. I'm fine with it. Totally fine with it.
There you go.
Lacy, thank you so much. Before we leave, we need to thank our sponsors, the Charleston Radio Group.
Thank you. Thank
We're
you.
in their studio. Cause Films behind the camera. Jerry Feels Good with the beats. And, of course, the American Marketing Association. Hey, if you want to be a sponsor or a guest on our podcast, reach out to podcast at charlestonama.org, and we'll get right back to you.
Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Yay,
And
Lacy.
we'll see you guys next time.
Yeah.
See you next time, Charleston.
Bye.
Thanks. It says here, both say bye. 1, 2, 3. Bye.
That's sort of in harmony.
I try.
Oh,
Sort of a
boy.
dissonant harmony, but
Oh, should we harmonize it? But 1, 2, bye.
No,
Oh,
no,
I don't know.
No.
All right, we're going on the road with this act.
Sign me up. Peace.